So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the group process and development. So group work is inherently dynamic, and understanding the process and the stages of group development is essential for successful facilitation. So understanding that, we understand that groups evolve over time as members interact and grow and shift from one stage to another. The group process is influenced by multiple factors, including personalities and experiences of the group members, the leader's approach, as well as the group goals itself. So, whenever we are looking at that, a key feature of group work is that it's not static, but rather it's fluid and consistently in motion as it progresses through the different stages of development. So these stages typically include the forming stage, the storming stage, norming, and then performing, and finally adjourning. And these phases can also be called the initial, transition, working, and final stages. So during each stage, the group dynamics change and different processes and tasks and challenges come up to a forefront. So the transition stage that we're going to be talking about today is a critical point in the group process. So this is where members begin to move from the initial awkwardness and tentative participation seen in the forming stage to a more deeper engagement with each other. This stage is often marked by increased tension, conflict, and defensiveness as members begin to confront more difficult emotions and interpersonal dynamics. At the same time, the transition stage offers the opportunity of growth and deeper connection and meaningful progress. So, for group leaders, understanding the characteristics and the dynamics of this stage is essential for guiding the group more effectively. So, key characteristics of the group during the transition stage. So, as the group begins to shift away from the forming stage into the transition stage, there are several key characteristics that begin to emerge. First, there is often an increase in anxiety and discomfort as group members move from the more superficial discussions of the forming stage to the more deeper and more vulnerable territory that comes with the transition stage. The group itself may start to address more personal issues, and members might begin to question their roles within the group itself. At this stage, individuals may feel unsure about how to engage more fully, or fear being judged or rejected by others. And these feelings, when they pop up, they can lead to defensiveness and reluctance to fully participate. Another characteristic of the transition stage is that of group conflict. So, as members begin to take in more risk in sharing personal information and personal thoughts and feelings, the differences in values and opinions and communication styles begin to surface. And this conflict, while challenging, is a completely natural part of the process. So if it pops up, don't sweat it. It can be an opportunity for growth itself if handled effectively. So it's important to pay attention to how you are handling the situation if it arises. Members who were once quiet or passive may begin to voice concerns or challenge others, which can feel uncomfortable. But it is also a sign that the group is moving toward a more open and honest interaction. One of the most common challenges during the transition stage is the presence of defensiveness and reluctance from group members. So, members who are vulnerable may act defensively to protect themselves from perceived threats or judgments. defensiveness may arise in a variety of ways. So this could come out through rationalizations or denial. It could come out through withdrawing or even aggression. Reluctance also may arise too. So that's where a person or a member begins to appear disengaged or unwilling to participate in the group process. To deal with defensiveness, the group members or the group leader must create an environment where members feel safe, as mentioned in previous videos, and supported, yet also encouraged to take personal risk, emotional risk. So it's also essential for the leader to model the calmness and acceptance, even when confronting defensive behaviors, because if the leader is modeling the behavior, the group members are more likely to take stock in it and begin to follow. The leader can gently challenge defensiveness by inviting members to explore the underlying feelings and thoughts behind their reactions. And this can be done with empathy and curiosity. So you could be asking open-ended questions like, what are you feeling right now? Or what do you think is behind this response? When encountering reluctance, leaders can use techniques to help members to explore their hesitations. So, for example, they may ask members to reflect on what they fear might happen if they opened up or participated more in group. Sometimes reluctance stems from fears of rejection or judgment, and addressing these fears directly can help members feel more comfortable engaging in the conversation. Resistance is also a concept that is often discussed in group therapy and in counseling itself, but it's important to critically evaluate its meaning and its implications. So traditionally, therapeutic models show that resistance is viewed as a barrier to progress, something to overcome by the therapist or the group leader. However, this view of resistance can be limiting and oversimplified. So rather than seeing resistance as an obstacle, it can be more helpful to consider it as a signal or an indicator of deeper emotional or psychological issues that need to be explored. Resistance is also where in the transition stage it manifests as avoidance and denial or even passive aggressive behaviors. So members may resist engaging in uncomfortable emotions, or they may resist the group process altogether. However, resistance is not inherently negative. And it's hard sometimes whenever we're faced with resistance, like we can't help this person, or how am I supposed to help this person? Well, the important thing is to understand that it can offer valuable insights into a person's fears, into their past experiences and unresolved issues. So leaders should approach resistance with curiosity rather than judgment, recognizing that resistance may stem from a fear of vulnerability or past trauma. So understanding the root cause of resistance allows the group leader to tailor their approach to help members process and work through their fears rather than forcing engagement itself. So another thing that is something that you have to confront during the transition stage is fear and anxiety. So at this stage, members face the reality of deeper emotional engagement. So these fears can be related to vulnerability and judgment, as we was stating earlier, or even with the fear of failure in achieving their personal goals for the group participation. Anxiety can also stem from the uncertainty of the group's dynamics, especially if there's been conflict or a lack of cohesion. So some members may also fear being exposed or emotionally or socially exposed, and may worry about how others perceive them. So here it is essential for the group leader to acknowledge these fears and anxiety and address them openly. Leaders can normalize these fears and these feelings by reassuring the group that discomfort and anxiety are natural and a natural part of the group process. Additionally, leaders can help members develop coping strategies to manage their anxiety, like deep breathing or mindfulness or reframing negative thoughts. But what the point is encouraging members to express their fears and concerns within the group so that it allows them to see that they are not alone in their struggles, which can also help reduce the feelings of isolation and increase empathy. So, conflict, while challenging, is an essential part of the group dynamic and the group development. The transition stage often involves the surfacing of interpersonal tensions and disagreements and differing perspectives. So rather than avoiding and suppressing conflict, effective group leaders recognize it as the opportunity, again, for growth and deeper connection. So by addressing conflict openly, the group can work through differences or build stronger relationships and foster a greater sense of trust. And when exploring conflict in the group, the leader's role is to maintain a neutral and supportive stance. So this is to be able to help members to communicate their feelings and perspectives without escalating the tension. So leaders can use techniques such as active listening, validation, and reframing to facilitate constructive discussions. It's important to acknowledge the feelings of all members involved. And while at the same time, you need to encourage them to also take responsibility for their actions and their words. So conflict can be a powerful tool for transformation. And that's when it is handled with care and respect. So that brings us to confrontation styles. So confrontation is an essential skill. Confrontation is an essential skill in group work, but the way that it's done can significantly impact the group effectiveness, meaning that an effective style of confrontation is one that is respectful and direct and aimed at promoting self-awareness and growth. So when a group leader confronts a member, it should be done in a way that encourages reflection and invites the member to examine their behavior and feelings without feeling attacked. So this might look like involving I statements, such as, I noticed that you've been quiet during the last few sessions. Can you tell me more about what's going on with you? On the other hand, ineffective confrontation is likely to provoke defensiveness and resistance. So this might involve accusatory language, such as, you're not participating enough in group, which can make the member feel blamed and alienated. Ineffective confrontation tends to focus on criticizing the person rather than exploring the underlying issues. So the key to effective confrontation is empathy and respect and a focus on helping the member explore their feelings and behaviors in a constructive way. So addressing problematic behaviors, which are common in the transition stage as members begin to express more of their true selves. And sometimes these behaviors can disrupt the group dynamic. So these behaviors might include avoidance or withdrawal, domination of the conversation, or again, even aggression. The leader's task in this is to address these behaviors when they occur in a way that is therapeutic and promotes growth rather than simply correcting the behavior itself. So one approach to addressing problematic behavior is to create a space for the member to reflect on their actions. An example of this would be if a member is dominating the conversation, the leader might gently ask them to consider how their behavior is affecting the others in the group. And what this does is it creates an opportunity for self-awareness and a shift in behavior without making the member feel shame and judgment. Additionally, the leader can model appropriate behavior by encouraging other members to speak up more often and reinforcing the group norms of equal participation. But at the same time, there is a possibility of having to deal with group-wide avoidance. And this is where the entire group may engage in avoidance either consciously or unconsciously. So this might be due to collective anxiety or fear of confronting uncomfortable issues. The group may avoid addressing conflict, personal topics, or difficult emotions. Avoidance by the whole group, though, can impede the progress and hinder the group's development. So it's very important for the group leader to step in and help the group reflect on their avoidance behaviors. So the leader here might ask the group directly about their reluctance to engage with certain topics or emotions, fostering an open discussion about what is being avoided and why. So leaders can also help to facilitate a supportive environment where group members can feel safe enough to confront these avoidances and these behaviors so that they are able to move forward as a group. Transference and countertransference are important dynamics to understand in group therapy as well as individual therapy. So transference refers to the unconscious redirection of feelings from one person to another, often from past relationships to group members or to the leader. So a member may project feelings of anger, love, or distrust onto another person in the group or based on a past experience. Countertransference is the emotional reaction of the group leader to the group members. So often it's due to the group leader's unresolved issues. So it becomes critical for the group leader to do a lot of self-reflection and to be aware of both transference and countertransference and how these dynamics can affect the therapeutic process. Group leaders also should seek to understand the underlying emotional currents of the group and use supervision or personal reflection to manage any emotional reactions that they may have. So again, group is not without its issues in terms of co-leader challenges. So during the transition stage, a co-leader can present a unique set of challenges, to be honest, because they may experience differences in style or approach or authority. And that in itself can affect the group dynamic. There might be issues around balancing leadership responsibilities and ensuring that both co-leaders are contributing equally to the group's process. So to manage co-leaders effectively, it is important for leaders to communicate openly with each other, establishing clear roles, and collaborate on decisions regarding the group's direction. And this can be done by having regular meetings to discuss the group's progress and any challenges that arise, and can ensure that both leaders are on the same page. So it's also crucial for co-leaders to model respect and collaboration and flexibility for the group itself. So taking a look at this, the storming stage is really a key for group development. It's not without its little issues and speed bumps, but if you give it proper attention to the emotions that are happening in the group and to the conflicts that are happening to the group and to the resistance and why they are happening in the group, then you're able to really foster trust and growth and engagement and show up in your most authentic self and be empathetic to your group members. So that is all for this module 5. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me. Otherwise, I will see you in module 6.